My God, I hope he feels like talking. I think this could be one of my best interviews yet. Let's see if he feels, I hope. Almost a full moon. Nice beautiful sunset over there. So let's see if he feels like talking, because it's an issue I really want to talk about. I really, really want to talk about. How you doing?
Great.
Listen, want to sit down? Want to sit down? I feel like to catch a predator. You want to sit? Have a seat.
Predator for what?
Have a seat. I want to talk about something here.
Oh.
And we talk about it a little bit, but you don't have to talk about it. But you, I know, you're like a retired general on CNN, you know.
Okay, and they want to know about war and stuff.
And people
to begin with.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
you're the past. I wasn't around, and I think this will be great. Let's talk about what happened at Kingsclear.
Yeah.
What happened there? I wasn't around. I was in St. John.
Much. Carl was in there making friends with the kids.
What year was that?
Home. I don't know what year it was. Home. The kids that were homeless and worked on the streets, and he'd do special favors for them if they did special favors for
What
them.
kind of favors?
It's all well written.
No, never mind the well written. I'm talking to you.
And that's all it was. And everybody sort of knew, but didn't know.
Know what?
They all closed their eyes. They closed their eyes and minds to what Carl was doing with the kids, and they figured that was none of their business. And that was the way it went. It didn't come out until much later after.
Yeah, but what happened? What did you, when you were here?
I wasn't there.
But you were here.
You read the same papers I have. It's
No.
in the newspaper.
You
All
were
that shit's in the newspaper. Yeah.
were here in Fredericton.
Yeah.
So
And Carl was, he pled guilty to the stuff, and he did it, so he didn't want to put the government to any expense. In fact, he promised he would name names in there, and the government didn't want to know names. They handed out all kinds of money to people who didn't have anything to do with it.
yeah, no. But how many? Do you know those kids that were there?
Most of them were my clients, yeah.
And were they saints? Were they what?
No.
What were they?
Kids. Kids working the streets.
How old?
Well, I'm not too sure. They were probably between 12 and 18.
12 and 18.
Probably.
Homeless?
A lot of them were street kids. Yeah.
Street kids.
Those are the ones that Carl befriended.
Yeah.
Mainly because there was no one for them to report to, and they were used to doing that same stuff on the streets to survive.
So did you hear?
So they survive in jail the same way they survive on the streets.
It's just like Donnie Schnook in St. John.
A little different than Donnie.
No, but
Schnook.
Donnie Schnook, the word was, well, if you want some favors, you want some money, go see Donnie Schnook.
Donnie
Was there some kind of message here?
Donnie preyed on some people and all that. And it's a slightly different story, but it still doesn't matter.
What's the
It's
difference?
There's not much difference. It's just a matter of degree.
So they
But they're
did,
out there. There's pedophiles all over the place.
but the street, the word was on the street with Donnie Schnook. Was the word on the street about what was going on in Kingsclear? Hey man, just spend 6 months there and you could drink wine, smoke dope, and party.
No, actually,
You never hear that?
Until it blew up, I didn't hear a thing about it.
You never knew?
No, kids never said anything to him. No
Nothing?
word. No, until it all came out in the papers and
Okay.
Carl pled guilty. I mean, I school with Carl's brother.
Who's Miller? Who's the Miller inquiry? What happened there?
Miller was a judge, and he.
Provincial judge, federal judge, who he was?
I don't know.
What was he?
He was a local judge,
Okay.
and he made a decision based upon a bunch of stuff that wasn't quite true. His decisions were not really helpful or germane to the situation. Didn't
Like
help
what?
anything.
Like what?
You have to go read that. I can't remember.
No, but
it
you,
now,
I'm
'cause I
talking to
don't-
you.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember.
Are you trying to tell me that you're getting old? You don't remember?
No, I just don't care about it. Not enough to retain that in my head. When I walked out of that courtroom and was going to burn my robes, I just emptied it. I didn't, I put 34 years into that shit, taking care of people and the rest. And I said, now I'm 24/7 with me, and I
Yeah.
don't care about that.
I know.
I did my job.
I don't care either, but it's nice to know after the fact, and this is social media,
Nothing
and
much happened.
it's
No
how-
innocent children were lured off the street and made to perform all these things. It wasn't. It was just that's what happens in those kinds of centers, whether it's the government running it or the Protestant orphanage or the Catholic Church. Where you find boys, you're going to find predators.
Is that
It's like Willie Sutton. Why do you rob banks? He says, because that's where the money is. You know,
So
why
it's-
do pedophiles gather in the Boy Scouts and then the institutions and in the orphanages and in the priesthood? And that? 'Cause that's where the boys are. That's part of it. These humans are being made and produced day after day after day. There's a good percentage of them in the human race. They're there.
And now
We should really get our kids ready for them, but we don't. We hide it and don't talk about it, and then get all upset out of shape when one kid's found giving some other kid a blowjob. Big flipping deal.
So if you turn around the Miller Inquiry and Kingsclear, is that the reason we don't have a provincial jail here in Fredericton? Too many horny bastards around? Or?
Well, it was actually a good reason to cost cut and to centralize jails. You know, do the Black River Road one and do one around Moncton and stuff like that. It was mostly cost cutting, but they would have given those kind of reasons for it. Whether it was real or not, I don't know. But New Brunswick can't afford its justice system. It can't afford its medical system. Can't afford any system. So wherever they can cut it, and where it takes. They'll cut teachers, they'll cut services, they'll cut criminal defense stuff, they'll cut all this stuff of the homeless because they don't vote.
Yeah.
But that's where it goes, and we're into one of those situations here.
And it's getting worse here.
It just drifts along here. It never gets worse. The only other thing is it never gets better. We just drift along doing what we can with what we have, which is never enough. But we're doing okay.
Kingsclear, was there any politician involved in there? Do you know?
Not that I know of. Some of them may have rented the kids for a weekend to help fix up their house and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I hear that.
The Rent-A-Crook program.
The Rent-A-Crook program.
Yeah, and that worked pretty good. And no, there was no political cover-ups. There was no politics involved, you know, as much as they wanted to stick our last, what would we call him, the last Liberal Premier, Hatfield. Although we ran under Conservative, he was the last Liberal that we did have, really. And they tried to make light of his private life, which he kept quite private.
Oh, did he ever?
Yeah.
Nothing.
And big deal, you know. That's his business.
That's his business.
And I don't know why everybody else wants to mind it. And mind what happened to the kids up there. There were no innocent children lured off the street. There were no police officers involved in a cover-up.
No Fredericton Police Force?
No, there was no police officer in Fredericton involved in a cover-up at Kingsclear. Miller was totally off base on most of his decisions based upon hearsay and poor information.
So he's a judge. Why would he go by poor decision? Doesn't he go by facts?
I have no idea. He's a judge. You know, they make their minds up based upon the way they hear things, and they're allowed under those inquiry rules to make those kind of judgments.
Yeah, but he didn't say there was no. How many kids are we talking about? Would you know?
What, Carl? Not that many.
Well, how many in Kingsclear that were abused and?
Not that many, really. The number 200 came up in the newspapers, but Carl said that was just because that's what they wanted me to say. His numbers, he would have given the numbers if the province had wanted it, but he gave the offer and they didn't come looking for names. He would have named every one of them.
So it was kids just wanted to party.
Was what?
Kids in jail just wanted to party, smoke marijuana, drink wine, and then the adults took advantage of that.
They wanted to be out of there for the weekend. And maybe some weed was there, and maybe some sex was there too. But that's the way those institutions work. That's what happens when we lock people up. That happens in our prison system, that happens in our jail system, it happened in Kingsclear. It's not new. This has been happening ever since we've locked men up in rooms together.
So why so big gun-ho about Kingsclear?
None, but the public likes to kind of clear the air to say that, well, this doesn't happen anymore. We're taking care of it. And it isn't. The whole system is predicated upon that kind of thing happening. It's probably going on now. It's going on in the federal institutions. It's going on in any place you're locking people in a room with other people. Human nature is such that they're going to have sex. They're going to do what humans do. And we lock them in a room and say, go for it. We're going to turn the lights out even.
Do you think Carl Taff will ever talk?
He's already talked.
Think he'll talk more?
Well, why should he? He gave all the information they need. And he was willing to give more, name names, and nobody wanted the information.
How come?
Said, well, we'll put Carl away. Well, it doesn't matter. They got the one guilty one. And then they don't have to worry about the rest in the system. They said, look, we cleaned up. And they didn't. They just, Carl was the scapegoat for a lot of shit that's still going on today. And it doesn't mean he was innocent of anything, but Carl was Carl. He was produced by that supposed God you believe in. He's out there.
And look, nice moon, nice sunset.
Yeah.
Come on. You think that just comes out of nowhere?
Yeah, it did.
No, come on, God.
It did. Actually, the moon didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of an asteroid hitting the Earth. This great big chunk of the Earth went out and started circling in gravitational pull.
Stop your whining. God made sure there's no mosquitoes tonight.
Well, why didn't God make sure there's no black flies and mosquitoes? And why does he put up with tsunamis and lava overflows and cancer and idiots like Donald Trump, you know?
That's another issue. How come?
If there's a God, there would be no Donald Trump.
What did we learn from Kingsclear? No more provincial jails here in Fredericton?
No, didn't learn anything from it.
Nothing?
Nothing. Nothing changed in the system.
It's still going on.
Of course it's going on. They're locking men in rooms. That's what happens when you lock men in rooms. And if the prisoners aren't doing each other, the guards and the priests and the rest of them are at it. Because men were put on this earth, the very DNA in women, and then it's the strongest urge they got. And they're going to screw wherever they are, whoever they're with. That's what we do with humans if we don't care about the people that are around.
So we
don't care about the kids, the public at large don't care about the kids in Kingsclear.
So we never learned nothing from
How
this.
can we learn it? They never have learned. They just made an example. They got Carl Toft in jail for 13 years or so, and everybody said, okay, forget it. That's over. We got him.
There were some kids that got $40,000 each.
Oh yeah, and a lot of them didn't deserve it. A lot of them Carl never went near.
Why did they get it?
Because the province made it available. And they said, okay, Carl abused me. And they just bought her, handed out the money.
How much money do you remember?
Don't know. Don't care. The kids needed the money, whether they deserved it or not.
I know there was one in St. John. Gary McDonald was a talk show host, and there was a dangerous offender in St. John. And they were on the talk show, and I remember Gary saying, I feel like you're going to attack me right now. He said, no, I'm all right. I'm okay. The police shouldn't put my name in public. And 1 week later, he beat up a pregnant woman in a elevator, and he was in jail, and he was in court, and then he was telling the media, look, I just received a check for $40,000 from Kingsclear. Yeah. I never had so much money in all my life, but then he was going to go to jail for the rest of his life, so $40,000.
Then could buy a lot of candy bars,
cigarettes,
and weed while he's in there. So you wouldn't have to start blowing people for a couple of years anyway.
Yeah. So they're going to keep on blowing people for whatever they want.
No, they're going to keep locking people up because that's what the Christians decided to do many, many years ago when they developed penitentiaries. You know, penitentiaries didn't just come out of the world. They came out of the penance of the Christian religion. They said, we're going to make prisons because we're going to have people go sit in these dingy cells and become penitent and talk to God. And that was the justice system that arose from the Christian religion, and we keep it going today. And 2,000 years after that wasted religion has wasted millions of lives, we still maintain the shabby parts of it, the prisons, the penitentiary for people to become penitent. What a farce.
Why do they want to put a good Catholic like me in there?
That's their job. They get raises and they get advancement. The more they lock up and the more they catch.
Yeah, but put me, why me?
Because you're an asswipe. They don't like you.
They don't like me. Why?
Of course not, because you bother them.
You wouldn't sit down with me if I was a bad person.
Well, I didn't say you were a bad person. I say they don't like you. You know, really, you piss them off. I found out people that I generally pissed off would try to get back at me. So I stopped trying to piss people off. And I do it just automatically. I don't even try now.
Now you do it with this camera.
Well, I say what I have to say. I got nothing else to say. The dog doesn't say anything back to me. I don't dare say anything in front of my wife or my mother. I don't have any judges and idiots in a courtroom to sit and rant with. You're my only outlet now.
So
I get this all welled up in me. There's a million more.